All right, today we're going to dive into the story behind one of the most famous, most celebrated, and, let's be honest, one of the weirdest books ever written, Don Quixote.
And look, I'm not just hyping it up. This quote says it all. Back in 2002, the Nobel Institute actually asked a bunch of top authors from 55 different countries, what's the greatest work of fiction ever written? And their answer? Don Quixote. I mean, just let that sink in. Not just a classic, the best book ever, according to the people who know books best. That's a huge deal.
So that leads us right to the big question, right? How is it that a 400-year-old book about a guy who thinks he's a knight is still this important? What's the secret sauce here? Well, that's what we're going to unpack together.
Okay, so to really get this book, you have to get the man at the heart of it all. And I'm not talking about the author, Cervantes. I'm talking about the character on the page, the one who's absolutely convinced he's a world-famous hero. So let me introduce you to Alonso Quijano. He's what they called a hidalgo, which is basically the lowest rung on the Spanish nobility ladder. He's getting close to 50, living a pretty quiet, simple life in a part of Spain called La Mancha. Honestly, he's a totally average guy. That is, until he starts reading. And he doesn't just read one book, he reads all of them. He gets totally, completely obsessed with these old stories about heroic knights, dragons, enchanted castles, you know the type. He reads so much that, and this is a quote from the book, his brain dried up. He literally reads himself insane. He starts believing all these fantasy stories are real, actual history. And that's when he gets this grand idea. He's going to become a knight himself and bring back the age of chivalry.
And just like that, poof, the ordinary guy Alonso Quijano is gone. He's been replaced by this grand, heroic figure he's invented, Don Quixote. In his head, he's not some guy in 17th century Spain anymore. No, he's a legendary hero from the good old days of knights in shining armor. And what's so funny is how seriously he takes this whole thing. He's got a to-do list straight out of his books. Step 1, a heroic name. He becomes Don Quixote de la Mancha. Perfect. Step 2, a noble steed. His rickety old farm horse gets a promotion to Rocinante. And step 3, the most important one. Every knight needs a lady love. So he picks a farm girl from the next town over, a girl he's never even talked to, by the way, and christens her the beautiful Dulcinea del Toboso. Now he's ready to go.
But here's the thing. The story isn't just about a crazy guy's adventures. That's only part of it. The real magic, the reason this book is so important, is what the author, Cervantes, did with this idea. He used it to completely flip the script on what a story could be.
Yeah, you hear this a lot. Don Quixote is the world's first modern novel. So what does that even mean? Well, think about the old stories he was reading. The heroes in those were basically cardboard cutouts. They never changed. But Cervantes' characters, they're messy, they're real. They have deep thoughts, they make mistakes, they learn, and, this is the key, they actually change over the course of the book.
And this quote nails it perfectly. It talks about the Sanchification of Don Quixote and the Quixotization of Sancho. It sounds complicated, but it's not. It just means that as they travel together, the crazy, idealistic Don Quixote starts to become a little more realistic, more like his squire, Sancho. And at the same time, the super practical, down-to-earth Sancho starts to get a little bit of that dreamer in him, more like Don Quixote. They rub off on each other. It's brilliant. But Cervantes wasn't done breaking rules. Not even close. He started playing around with this idea that we now call metafiction. It's basically when a book knows it's a book, or a character knows they're in a story. Think about a movie where a character turns and talks to the camera. That's metafiction. It sounds super modern, right? Well, Cervantes did it 400 years ago and maybe better than anyone since.
Okay, so check out this crazy story. In 1605, Cervantes drops part 1 of Don Quixote, and it's a smash hit. It's like the blockbuster of its day. But then, almost 10 years later, some other author hiding his name releases a fake, unauthorized part 2. It was basically literary theft. Cervantes was, you can imagine, not happy. But his revenge? It was pure genius. He wrote his own official part 2, and he wrote the fake sequel into the plot. This is where it gets completely wild. In the real part 2, Don Quixote and Sancho find out that they're celebrities. Why? Because everyone has read the book about them, the part 1 that we, the readers, just finished. They even run into the characters from the fake sequel on the road and have to argue that they are the real deal. It's so clever it'll make your head spin. He's breaking the fourth wall before there was even a fourth wall to break.
So, okay, all the literary tricks are amazing, but the real reason we still love this book, it's the friendship. It's all about the bond between this crazy knight and his loyal sidekick.
Right at the start, Don Quixote knows a knight can't go it alone. He needs a squire. So he finds this local farmer, Sancho Panza, and makes him an offer. The pitch is straight out of the fantasy books. "Come with me," he says, "and I'll make you governor of an island." And Sancho, who's about as practical a guy as you can find, hears governor of an island and thinks, you know what? I'm in.
And these two could not be more different. They are the ultimate odd couple. Don Quixote looks at the world and sees magic, honor, and epic quests. Sancho looks at the same world and sees, well, dirt, roads, and lunch. And there's no better example than the most famous scene in the book. Don Quixote sees a field of medicine giants, Sancho sees a field of windmills. And you can guess what happens next.
That one image, a man charging at windmills, is just so iconic. It's a perfect symbol for the entire book, and it's so powerful that it's literally become a part of our language and culture.
I'm sure you've heard the phrase tilting at windmills. It means you're fighting an enemy that isn't really there, getting worked up over an imaginary problem. Well, that expression, it comes directly from this scene. It's the perfect way to describe fighting a noble but completely useless battle.
And it doesn't stop there. The hero's own name, Quixote, became a word in the dictionary. If you call someone quixotic, you're saying they're a hopeless romantic chasing after some grand ideal in a way that's, well, completely impractical. It's a perfect word to describe Don Quixote himself. And the book's reach is just staggering. It's been translated into pretty much every language you can think of. Nobody knows the exact number for sure, but the best estimates say it's sold over 500 million copies. That puts it right up there with the best-selling books in the history of the world. It's just massive.
But you know, for all the laughs and silly adventures, the book has this incredibly sad, really touching ending. Right at the very end, on his deathbed, the fog of madness finally lifts. He remembers who he is. He says goodbye to Don Quixote, apologizes to everyone for all the chaos, and dies peacefully as himself, as Alonso Quijano the Good. And that's what the book leaves you with, this really powerful question. Yeah, we laugh at this crazy old man fighting windmills. But there's a part of us that kind of admires him for it, right? For his passion. And it makes you wonder, is it better to just accept the world as it is with all its flaws? Or is it better to be a little bit crazy and fight for the world you wish existed, even if it's only in your imagination? It's a question that's just as relevant today as it was 400 years ago.